Hey there, YouTube. Welcome on back to ArtichokeDip. My name is Rob, solo tabletop gamer, and well, I've been on a hiatus for a while and I haven't posted anything. Nothing. And you're probably wondering why? I mean, I know I've disappeared in the past, but well, it all started on a early spring day when the wife said, "Honey, I think it's time to update the house." And I was like, "Oh, update? What do you mean?" And, well, make a long story short, I've been busy with home renovations. But I have to admit, she was right. It looks so much better. We got new flooring, the painting, and everything else we're doing. The house looks absolutely great. And I have to say, well, it costs some money, but, in the long run, it has made her happy. So that old saying is, happy wife, happy life. But that doesn't mean I totally gave up gaming. As a matter of fact, I've been doing a lot of gaming, and I'm going to get into this video and talk about a few things that I've been really enjoying lately. So if you like the video, you like the content, click the like button. If you understand how the algorithms work and all blah 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 blah, basically it'll direct you towards more videos like this type of content. Or if you have just stopped in and recently found my channel, and feel free to hit the subscribe button. Every time I do upload a video, you'll get a notification so you do not miss one. So let's jump into two of the games that have been dominating my table lately that I really have been enjoying. The first one, and I've talked about this before, and I've really had time to digest it, really get into it, both as a solo and a cooperative game as well, simultaneously at the same time. And surprisingly enough, I can say they're both extremely consistent in the ways that they play, and it's just a breath of fresh air for tabletop RPG, whether you're a solitary player or you enjoy playing in a large group. And that is The One Ring. The One Ring has its challenges. At first look, it's an extremely simple RPG system, D6 driven with a D12, we'll say, fate die that basically is going to give you that variability of success and or failure into shadow. And the thing that I love about the game, the way that it's structured and that it's set up, is true to the writings of Tolkien and the world that he had created. The shadow is a forever foreboding force in this game, and everything you do, you can run the risk of possibly failing that shadow save roll and acquiring more shadow points and falling darker into, not falling further into the shadow of the darkness. And at that time, can't talk today, bad things begin to happen. In my cooperative game, Lance, who I was playing with, found that out pretty quick, especially with the hope points. And it's cool how they set that up. You can use a hope point to give yourself an extra dice roll, or to give yourself a favored roll against a particular skill, but you have to be mindful of it because you only get hope points back on fellowship phases, which happen every fourth game session. In between that, you don't gain them back, and the odds of you running into a situation to where that die is going to roll the Eye of Sauron, and you're kind of at that point in a lot of trouble. You hope you make your save, because if not, you just keep tacking on them shadow points. And then once them shadow points are equivalent to them hope points, at that point, you have to go to the chart and resolve, well, how far into madness your character is falling, and some of the new, not, we'll say, unsavory traits that your character is going to begin to exhibit to the rest of the party members. So, but besides that, the mechanics of it, just the simplicity of the game, the way that it was set up, and Freely Publishing, like I had said in my last video, I am just all on board with Free League Publishing. So far, everything I have played that they have put out, from Forbidden Lands to Morkborg, now the One Ring, has been top-notch, excellent. The rules, the way that it's set up, everything is wonderful. And it's for older gamers who enjoy that old school feel. They really do capture and hold that old school feel, but at the same time, they're introducing new, and I'm going to say they're kind of breaking the boundaries of RPG, if you will, as to what they're doing with the tabletop versus a lot of other systems we're seeing out there that is pretty much just reproducing that same rule set that, you know, we have played for years and years, close to what, 50 years now, that is just being regurgitated, and they throw in a few different rule changes to try to attract newer people to the gaming hobby. But at the end of the day, it's still the same. And they really, in my opinion, they have not pushed them boundaries like what Free League Publishing has. Now, I have been really deep into the One Ring, and there's another board game I'm going to get into and talk about here. That's another one that has just, man, it is solitaire. It is solid, and it is tough. And I'll get into that in a minute. But the other RPG that I have lined up, once I eventually, I guess, get to a point to where my characters are just going to be completely corrupted by Shadow, or they get killed off, it's hard to be seen yet. So far, they're still plucking along at a pretty decent pace, and I'm still having a lot of fun with it, with what I have. Now, with that being said, from where I started to where I am at now in the gaming, I see some of the mistakes that I made, like a lot of people do when you first get into an RPG system. You think you may know the game flow and how it works because you may see similarities of other games, until after a few game sessions you realize you misinterpreted it, and it's a completely different viewpoint, we should say, that you had from it. But that's okay. That's what they call the learning curve, and that's the thing I love about RPGs, because when you do learn them and you get them underneath your belt, it just opens up so many different doors for you to go from there, that are, especially with like Free League Publishing, the way that they do theirs. I love it with the D6 system. I used to be strictly 100% D20, and I thought D20 was it, but Free League Publishing has really changed my perspective on that, and they have really catapulted to the forefront of my gaming library as well. And the other game that I picked up that I want to get into, and this will be probably more of a mid to a late fall, because like I said, I'm still running my tour campaign, and that's going to be this one right here. I picked up the core rulebook of Vassen. If you're not familiar with Vassen, Vassen is Free League Publishing. It's a Nordic horror role-playing game, so I think a lot of people are going to think like Call of Cthulhu, even though it's you could make your campaigns like that. It's more or less Nordic horror. It's more or less of a historical game system built on historical folklore, Nordic traditions. I'm going to say, I don't even know if traditions are the correct word. I'm just going to say Nordic folklore of our history that they had put into an RPG game. Now, I have not read through the entire book yet. I try to refrain from doing that, because what winds up happening is I'll be into one RPG, and if I pick up another book and start reading and getting into it, then the next thing I know, I'm rolling up a character and I'm jumping into this campaign, and I have totally forgot about this other one over here. And then as weeks or months go by, it's at that point that, you know, you try to get back into that older campaign you were into before you got into this, to find out, you know, you just moved on to other game systems. So I have really told myself, no, you're going to stick with this. You're going to stick with the One Ring. Once we're done with that, then we're going to move on to something new and push on to there. So Tor, if you're a solitaire gamer and you're looking for a solid RPG system that you can play solitaire, and the cool thing about it, what I had done is they actually had put out this, which is Strider Mode. Strider Mode is a add-on that you can purchase. You can get it from RPG Now. I bought the PDF. It was like $5, I think, and then it only cost me $10 to get it printed through Staples and shipped to me. And as a matter of fact, it's wonderful. I mean, this is what came out of the One Ring starter set. As you can see here, the booklet that came from Free League Publishing, and this is the one that I had printed out from Staples. As a matter of fact, by looking at it, the art, the way it's laid out, the material they use on the pages, if nobody told you any different, you wouldn't know that, you know, this did not come with a set, that this was actually printed separately. So, but the cool thing about Strider Mode, what it does for you is it gives you all those necessary elements that you do need for solo RPG plays, such as your emulator to answer your simple yes/no questions. And then the thing that I like is it has tables, as they word it. As a matter of fact, let's just start from the beginning of the solitaire, and we'll go through it that way. It'd be a little bit easier to understand for those of you out there watching this. So the tables that comprise the book are very simple. First thing is, experience is a little bit different solitaire than if you were to play with a group. So they go by experience milestones, and then after each game session that you've done, you go through the table, and it's just some simple questions that you ask yourself, like, did you accept a mission from a patron, or did you complete a meaningful journey, or did you face a noteworthy encounter during the journey? And if you answer yes to any of those, it'll tell you how many skill and or adventure points that you have acquired for that particular game session that goes towards your experience. So in the solitaire mode, you actually do gain experience quicker than you would in a group setting, which is kind of cool, because what it does is it helps your character progress further quicker solitaire than in a group. But in a group, things are going to move a little bit differently. The whole entire dynamic's going to change, because now you're going to have a game master and you're going to have your players. And, you know, from there, that's just different from a solitaire point of view where, you know, you are the basically game master / player. Now it goes in from there to your fortune table. So on your 12-sider, if you roll a Gandalf rune, that's considered a complete automatic success. And with that, you also gain a fortune. So you would also roll an additional die, and you cross-reference it on that chart, and it would tell you what good fortune has, you know, on top of your success, your character has been gifted with, if you will. Then you got the ill fortune table, and this is when you roll the Eye of Sauron. And when the Eye of Sauron comes up, you got to, just like the fortune table, roll an additional die, and not so nice things happen. And you know, one that I just, for whatever reason, on the ill fortune table, when I get it, the die just lands there. It seems like every time is a favored weapon or item is lost, broken, or sacrificed. And that hurts, because the thing I like about Tor, unlike a lot of other fantasy RPG games out there where you can build a magic user or sorcerer or mage, or however they want to word the character class in the game, and then you have your spell slots, and they're templated, so anybody can take those spells and have the same effects and so on and so forth. In this game, it's differently. There's a lot of magic in this world, but it's wrapped up into weapons and armor. And when you find these things, it's the only one of their kind. Now, when your character dies, your equipment and armor is destroyed and it cannot be passed on. That's it. That's how they keep all of your weapon and your armor and the enchantments attached to them, so unique to each individual character of the game. But there is a cool little thing that they do put in there, which is going a little bit deeper into the rules, but you can basically take an air. And by taking an air through what they call a Yule, which is a long rest, you can at that point begin to apprenticeship and create another character. So if something happens to your character, you can at that point have those weapons and armor transferred over to them. But it's not just that easy. You just don't take an air and automatically. There's several steps that you have to go through, and it takes quite a few gaming sessions to actually get there, actually Yules, because, like I said, without really diving deep into the rules, I think I'm going to leave that right there, and we're going to get back to the tables for the solitaire play. So we got your experience milestones, you got your fortune table, you got your ill fortune table, you got your telling table. Your telling table is going to be like your mythic, or in Scarlet Heroes, their emulator, where it's going to answer those yes/no questions. Real quick ones like, you come up to a door, is it locked? Well, okay, I don't know. Well, you can go to the telling table and you roll a die, and it's going to tell you whether it's certainly, likely, middling, which I do like. They put it in there, means it's uncertain. It could be a 50-50 chance, and at that point, even though there's nothing in the rule book about percentage die, I do put percentage die into my game and roll that to see what the percentage would be. Is it a high or low percentage as to whether that would happen or not? And then it goes from doubtful to absolutely unthinkable. And the last two columns in this table, which if you were to roll, because you got to roll your d12 for your telling table, if you roll a Gandalf Ruin, it's always a yes with an extreme result and twist. But if you roll an Eye of Sauron, it's always a no with an extreme result or twist. So getting back to what I was saying earlier, how the shadow is always a foreboding force over your characters and the gaming sessions, it even shows up in your tailing tables as well. There's always the possibility that the shadow can make things a little bit more difficult than, well, what you first anticipated. Now, moving on from there, they have the lore table, which is really cool onto itself. And as a matter of fact, this is the first game system that the supplement they give you for solitary play is pretty much all I use, and it's seamless. I don't even have to go back to Scarlet Heroes or random table books. More about that in the video later. We're going to get into that. It gives you everything really that you need, and it's very cool. You roll a 12-sider and a 6-sider together. Now, there are a total of 10 tables, and of those tables, they are broken up into 6 categories. And of those categories, you have an action, an aspect, and or a focus. And you roll on that, or multiple tables, however you want to do it, to be able to take 3 of these descriptions and be able, believe it or not, you're going to be able to make a really cool story, scenario, and or outcome from it. And it is such a breath of fresh air. I love it. I can't say enough about the One Ring. Now, moving on from there, it goes into your risk levels. It goes into your solo journey events. Yes, because even when you journey, you can acquire journey mishap points, which if those become equivalent to your endurance, you become weary, and other horrible things, result from that. Getting back to this foreboding force called the Shadow of Mordor that's plaguing the world. And moving on from there, it gives you a lot more tables to be able to utilize for solitary play and give you some really good ideas for your gaming sessions, such as your event detail ill choices, or your event detail mishaps, your event detail shortcuts, and your event detail chance of meeting, just depending on how the dice fall, and will direct you to one of these tables. And at that point, the thing that I really liked is, let's go into the event detail ill choice. And if you were to roll a number 3, you would have an overlook hazard. Now, you would have to roll an awareness save to escape safely. If you failed it, then at that point, well, you're faced with a encounter. Maybe you're not equipped, or maybe you don't have the endurance points to be able to fend yourself from, but you're going to have to do it anyways because now it's in your face and it's right there. So this is what I'm talking about with the One Ring. What an awesome system it really, really is. Now, they offer the introductory starter set to get into the One Ring, which is the first thing that I did get into. And the thing I have to admit that they give you in this that's really, really cool, besides the dice that you get and the booklets how to play, of course, it gives you an adventure module in Hobbiton. And there's really not a whole lot of high adventure. It's more or less designed to teach you how to play the game, is what it is, and how the skills really dominate the majority of the game and how you roll. And that's what it's trying to teach you there. Then it slowly takes you on and teaches you about combat and so on and so forth. But if you've played any type of fantasy genre type of RPG, the main core rule book is more than enough information that you need to know, but you just don't get the little goodies that come with it, like your little cheat sheet card right here that they put in there that really helps with combat and journeys, because it gives you the quick note that you need to see as to which skill to roll depending on the situation of the journey and or combat. So it's one thing I can admit, these have come in just so helpful. And when I first looked at them, I'm like, okay, I guess these are reminders they hand out to the players at the table. But I find when I even play solitaire, I always have one of these next to my dice tray, and it really, really works out well, particularly with combat. Like I said, I could go off about Tor or the One Ring for quite a while. It's a game that has dominated my gaming table this summer, not only solitaire, but also with a cooperative game as well. So there is that. But the other game that has been dominating my table, and it's a behemoth. It's one that I saw, and I was looking for something unrelated. As a matter of fact, I was looking for now I gotta think about it, because see, I got this instead and I totally forgot about it. But I was looking for screw bits for my screw gun. That's what it was. I was looking for a specific, because now you go and you buy these wood screws and you find out they're no longer a Phillips bit. Now they're a specific Torx bit, and they only give you one bit for a box of these things, and it doesn't last that long. So, anyways, I knew I had more and more flooring that I would be doing, so I was going to need more bits. So I had jumped on Amazon and to buy a pack of them, knowing I'm going to burn through these things. And that's when it had made a suggestion, and it says, hey, you know, you put this in your cart, and did you realize that the price had come down this much? And that was Machina Arcana. Now, Machina Arcana is a dungeon crawler. It is a board game. And with the board game, you're not going to get a whole lot of thrills, I should say, when you look at the game components with this. You're not going to get resin miniatures. You're going to get cardboard standees. And I know some people may be like, whoa, wait a minute. But here's what you do get. This game is tough, and I mean it's tough solitaire. And if you were to play with 4 other players, I noticed the more characters, the sweet spot I found is using 3, even if you're playing solitaire, because it keeps things really well balanced. If you were to play 1, that's just going to be murder. You'll be dead within a matter of turns. But the cool thing is they give you some cool tiles, of course, that you can, you know, put down on your blah, 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 on your table to set up. And then everything is tokens and standees, and then you get dice. This is where it differs that I really like about this game. So each character starts out with a total of 6 stamina points every turn. And when they take their turn and you go through it, so moving 1 hex or 1 square, however you want to look at that, on your tile will cost you 1 stamina point. Now everything else you encounter with, whether that's opening a door or opening a chest, pulling a trap lever, so on and so forth, those are going to cost you a significant amount more of stamina. Now you only got 6 points per turn to use, so you really have to look at the board, you got to anticipate it, and you got to figure out, I can move here and I can do I want to move here, and do I want to open this chest to possibly get a better piece of equipment, or knowing that after this turn we may possibly be overrun, should I at that point head this direction and engage with the encounter, and then possibly, if the coast is clear, go back and get this. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter what decision you choose. It's rough either way. Now the cool thing is, this is set up with 3 different story modes that go into it. And when I say story modes, just 3 different chapters of the story. It is a Call of Cthulhu type of setting. So you're going to have a lot of the Lovecraft monsters. If you've read any of his publications, then you're going to be well aware of them. If you're new to it, it's kind of a cool starting point to get into. But either way, the thing that I love about the game is the way that it's structured. Unlike a lot of different board games that we've seen come out, one I'm going to use an example of is Gloomhaven, where you have this reference chart that's just all different symbols. Now, at first it's overwhelming until you play it, and then after a few game sessions, you start to recognize and remember what the more common symbols are, and it becomes easier and easier, and then over time you adapt and you learn more. This game, it really is not like that. There are a few symbols that you have to remember, that when cards come out into play, they either mean they go into play immediately, or they can be held back and used when you want to use them. So that part I really like. The gameplay structure is simple. It goes in a series of rounds from the character's turn, the spawn phase. The spawn phase is where you're going to roll a dice, and if you meet and or exceed this number, another creature at that point is spawned into the game. Then you're going to go into the spawn phase, the monster. I don't want to get this wrong now, so I better look it up. The monster phase, your explorer phase, your spawn phase, your horror phase. So the horror phase, if you fail that check, there's a completely different set of cards that you draw from. And some of these, they're not too bad. Others are just downright horrible. To where you could draw a card, in the last game session I had, it just said all characters take 2 points of damage. Just bam, done. And that's devastating, because considering my last game session, 2 of my characters were already on the brink of death as it was, and then once that hit, they were completely wiped out. It left me with 1 guy left, and 2 turns later, I was completely dead, starting over at square one. But overall, even solitaire, it's seamless. It moves quick. It really keeps a steady pace going. So you're not burdened down with having to go back and look at symbols or managing cards or doing things such as that. Even though there's cards in the game system, a lot of them will be equipped to your character in the form of artifacts, or they put apparel, which would be armor or weapons, and various other types of goodies. And really, I have to admit, for a board game, because I really do like RPGs quite a bit, I love board games that are solitaire, that play like RPGs, but I have to say, out of all the board games that I have, that this one, for being a dungeon crawler, really has done an excellent, well-balanced job of maintaining a dungeon crawler where you can sit down and play it, and it's going to be engaging. It's going to really, really challenge you. It's not going to be like a lot of other games out there. Once you've already gone through the scenario, you're like, okay, I know where to go. You go here, you get this to go over here to do that, activate this to open up that, and go there. This, you're never going to find that. As a matter of fact, every time you sit down and you play a game, they recommend that you take the stack of tiles, you shuffle them up, you roll your 10-sider that they gave you, you get a specific dice for this game, and then you pick that tile out of the board, and then however you want to do it, call it high or low, evens or odds on the dice, does not matter, because they're two-sided tiles. You roll the dice, and then you flip to that tile side, and that's where you start. So even if you were to sit down and play the same scenario 2 times over, you're not going to have the same tile. You're not going to have the cards line up exactly the same way with the horror events, or even the equipment. Everything's going to be different every single time. So it's, out of many of my board games that have, you know, very well sculpted, detailed miniatures that I enjoy painting, you know, dudes like this that I got ready for the One Ring right here, if I can get him there in the camera. I did recently get a new phone here with a new camera, but as you can see, pow, an official Lord of the Rings mini, which anyways, has nothing to do with the board game. I just thought I would show it off. So anyways, that is Machina Arcana. The game is a little pricey for, you know, I think a lot of people may be scared off by the price of the game, but I can tell you this, it's worth every penny, because this game has a high amount of replayability. As a matter of fact, it's one you could probably sit down and play until you get completely bored with it. And like I do with a lot of my games, RPG games, if you've played RPGs for a while, you'll understand this after you play them and you have concluded the story of that RPG. Typically you like to shelf them for a couple of months, maybe upwards to a year or so, and go back to them and play them again, because then a lot of them surprises are new again, rather than just running back through it again, because it kind of, to me, it's not enough time away from it to forget enough before I jump back in. That's me. May not be you, but that's me. All right, my friends. So, talk your ear off about Machina Arcana and the One Ring. And I wanted to get into the one thing that I had noticed, and it's kind of a precautionary tale out there, if you will. Those of us who are solo tabletop RPGers, and we see what's happening in the gaming industry as it is, you're seeing everything really start to go more towards solitaire options with gaming. And a lot of that is, well, driven by these right here, random tables. But let me tell you something. Before you just purchase random tables, and I've said this before, the best random tables you can get for solitary play are your own. Sit down and write up your own randomized tables on either on a 1d20, a percentile, d6, d66, however you want to do it, and detail them really towards your game. Because when I first started this channel out, and I was talking about that before there was resources out like this, that's what I had used. And then as these have come out, I've integrated them into my game systems and used them more and more and more, and they've become a main staple of my gaming. But there is a difference. There's a huge difference. And there's this, okay, when you see this name, don't walk, run away from it. These are just, they're horrible. They are just absolutely horrible. And I have recently picked up these randomized tables by Stephen Chobate. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. These are over the top. They are over the top. I mean, the descriptions, the last cooperative game session I played, Lance was like, man, those are great. Where did you get those? You know, he was asking me, and I said, man, this is where I found them. And for most part, these, well, honestly, they're probably going to become fire starters for the fire pit in the fall is what's going to wind up happening with those things. Because they don't even use them anymore. They're just, it's horrible. And one of the things that I had noticed about one of his earlier printings is if you go through it and you look at the table and then you take out the original AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide, and you go to the appendix in the back and you look at what Gary Gygax did back then and the tables that he gave you, and then you start looking at some of these books and you're going, hey dude, it's kind of copied. I mean, really, I mean, I understand open game licensing, but that's kind of like just cannibalism if you ask me. So I wanted to get that out there. I'm not really knocking the guy. I'm not really knocking his product. I mean, I bought the books, but when I kind of like looked at them, I'm like, I mean, don't waste your money on this. Don't. I mean, really, seriously, don't. If you can find it free on RPG Now or something, that's one thing. If you want to burn up the memory on whichever device you're using it for, that's fine. But to give money for this, I wouldn't. It is not worth it whatsoever. I used to think these were great until I actually found some really, really decent tables that really took my gaming to the next level. And then looking at these, realizing, wow, man, this is just, I mean, I open it up to here, and this is the thing that gets me. Herbal teas. Really? Herbal teas? Like, you need a whole section of herbal teas. I mean, I think I speak for the vast majority of role-play gamers out there. Role-playing games should be filled with action and danger and combat and magic and all these hallmarks of what makes great fantasy. Not going to, what, an herbal tea house? I guess that's the way he foresaw it. And they're all going to sit there and drink tea and eat crumpets and I don't know. But I can tell you, these have been eradicated from my library, and like I said, they're probably going to become fire starters, is what they're going to become. Get them going, and right into the fire pit they go. Like, at least they'll be useful for something. Or another thing you can use them for, you have an uneven part of flooring in your house. Yeah, you got that table that might rock like that. These would work perfectly just to slide up underneath that table leg to take up that little bit and forget about them. But I just wanted to get that out there. I just, the bad thing about what Amazon publishing has done, there's been good and bad. The good is now people who would have never, ever been considered by a large publisher ever to have anything that they've written published and put into circulation for, you know, public consumption. Now they can through Amazon, which is also the bad thing, which means the market is flooded with a bunch of crap. And that's what it is. It's crap. I have no other way to describe it. I'm not going to candy coat it because, let's face it, this is a hobby. This is something people, when they have extra money that they want to devote towards their hobby, they're going to do. So they don't want to get screwed over. They don't want a crappy product. They want quality is what they want. That's why they do it. So it's just one of those things. Now, with that being said, if you enjoy his randomized tables and the stuff that he used, more power to you and happy gaming. But if you're looking at randomized tables and yeah, try him first. These books are absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Extremely descriptive. And I'm going to show you the difference between the two so you can understand. So let's look at one of these randomized tables. Okay, so we have jewelry right here. And as you can see, In the page, you got one item with a very, very vague, brief description as to what it is. And the majority of time, I'll be honest with you, when you're playing your RPG, it doesn't work and it doesn't make any sense. This one, on the other hand, let's go into the dungeon tables. Let's take a look. There are, starting at 2 and goes to 21 on this page. Look at how extremely descriptive this is. Look at how much information this is actually giving you. And for the solitaire gamer, this is what you want. Let's go to number 6. A ripped piece of parchment is found floating to the floor. When the door is open, you recognize it as a portion of a dungeon map, and you think you recognize some of the area that is mapped as the portion you just explored. You can build a whole entire gaming scenario around that one table. Versus, what did items in an adventurer's saddlebag? A wooden pipe. Wow. What could I do with that? My character finds the wooden pipe, and he develops, after several game sessions, a +10 to lung cancer. Thanks a lot. You know, it's just... Anyways, where I'm going with that. It's just a matter of a thing with me when it comes to my gaming quality. I want quality. I don't want quantity. Anybody can sit down at a computer and go 1 through 100 and go off of randomized stuff and just throw it out there. I used to do it. I know it's not that hard. People may try to bullshit you into saying it is. It's not. It's really not. It's really not that hard. I did it before all this stuff comes out. I just buy these. Why? Because I'm lazy now. I have other things going on that I have to take care of. Working full-time, renovations on the house, stuff like that. I want quality stuff. So, from here on out, I have decided, because I really, after seeing this, I put a bad taste in my mouth. And it was also, too, it was a podcast I heard when they interviewed him, and he talked about how pathetic solo RPG players really are. Well, if we're so pathetic, then maybe we should just buy your product. And so I'm kind of getting the word out there to people who enjoy solitary RPG. You know, you got this this product that's being marketed towards you like, hey, look, isn't this cool for your RPG? But he thinks we're all pathetic. So honestly, pal, with that, I think your product is pathetic. And you're pretty much ripping people off is what you're doing. And so from here on out, on ArtichokeDip, I will no longer be featuring any of that crap. And yeah, as you can see, it's all going onto the floor because it's all going out to the fire pit to be burned out there. But we will definitely be seeing more of this. Now, he has an entire line of these, and I only picked up a couple, which is the dungeon tables and the town tables. The town tables, holy crap. This right here is excellent, is absolutely excellent, particularly solo. One of the things I've always kind of struggled with the towns is towns are so vast, there's so much going on, and being able to have matrices to be able to cover everything. And with this, you're getting that, and it's absolutely amazing. If you don't believe me, if you're on the Facebook page and you know who the moderator is, Lance Addington, just ask him. He'll tell you. All right, my friends, that's, I just wanted to get that off my chest and get that out there into the world and educate some people. The other thing that, game I'm looking towards the fall, and don't know if I'm going to really invest in the minis too much because, realistically, I have a lot of minis, and I've gotten to the point where I've kind of been like, you know, I think I got more than enough minis. Why? I don't think I need any more minis. You can only put so much out for a gaming scenario, and Typically, after I get them painted, then it's buying more storage boxes to put these things in and trying to find a room to house all of them. So I'll probably just recycle the minis I already have in my collection. But this is one that I did pick up. That's one of my favorite video games that they did make into a miniature skirmish game. And will be another fall type of gaming interest that I'll be going into. And that is Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls, Call to Arms. So essentially what this is a miniature skirmish game, and it breaks it up. You have two different rules in here. So if you've never played any type of miniature skirmish, or I refer to it as wargaming, then there's a learning curve you have to go through in order to understand how the miniatures work, line of sight, so on and so forth. These little rules you got to learn. And they're not hard. They're really not. And so they give you, for people they go at it that have never experienced this or never played it before, they give you a little booklet that's pretty much skims through the rules and teaches you the basics of what to do and how the game is played. And then when you're ready to get into, more, I'm going to say a rule heavy, not rule heavy is not a good example. You want to basically take your game to the next level. You want to have a little bit more complexity. You want to have more information. You want to have a more, I'm going to say, enriched gaming experience than they give you the full rule book that they break it down into. And even like thumbing through this and looking at it, if you've played miniature gaming, you're going to know, I'm going to say 80%, if not 85% of this book already. The learning curve is going to be just learning all their different symbols, what the symbols mean for the turns and such, so on and so forth. And then, of course, they give you all your punch outs like these for all your tokens to be used in the game. They give you your ability cards, and then, of course, your dice, which I haven't even opened up yet. That's just going to be an entirely different game scenario. I already know what to expect out of a miniatures game, so I'm gonna wait to punch everything until I get my terrain set up, I get the miniatures out, and I get everything ready to go, and then it's game on from there. But this is gonna be one of those games that's gonna be set up for a nice long weekend, and typically that's how I like to do it, is be able to set up the table to where I can have a miniature skirmish game that's going to last a couple of game scenarios. It's going to take me more than a couple of hours to complete, because that's half the fun in it, is setting it up to see what the final outcome is. And that, in a nutshell, my friends, is what I have been up to lately. I know there hasn't been much out of me this year. And, well, like I said, I've been a busy boy. And recently, the old phone died. The new phone is in, and I was very, very thankful when I looked at it to see that this phone has a package just for vlogging on it. Huge amount of editing software and all kinds of cool things I can do with it. So I decided, it's a sign from the gaming gods, Artichoke, you gotta make a video. So I decided to get that one out there and get it going. I hope you guys are all doing great. I hope you're enjoying your games. And like I said, I foresee in the future, particularly with gaming, you consider this type of game right here, even this one, is designed for 1 upwards to 4 players. So, solitaire game. Well, they say 1 to 2, but realistically with a miniatures game, you can do 4 people with it if you wanted to. But so either solitaire or up to 2 people. Solitaire or group experience. Solitaire or up to 4 people. All right there. Isn't that kind of amazing to see that? To see them games, to see those huge names in the industry, huge. People know who Lord of the Rings are. If you say J.R.R. Tolkien, the majority of people, even if they never played RPG gaming, they would know, hey, isn't that the guy from Lord of the Rings? Or if you were to say Skyrim, people know what you're talking about. Or Elder Scrolls, they know. Or Machina Arcana. And if you were to say, oh, you know, Cthulhu. Oh yeah, people know who Cthulhu is. Just saying, food for thought. Maybe the gaming industry is moving in a different direction, in a different mindset than a lot of people, what they imagine gaming was at one time or should be, and what it's moving into now. And I have to say, for me, yeah, I'm excited, and I hope there's more to come out, because I think as the years go by, you're going to see solitaire gaming growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And as a matter of fact, if you don't believe me, even though I don't agree with the political crap that's going on out there in Seattle, known as which is the coast right now, even their game systems, I have to admit, they have one of the most robust solitaire online engines resources out there for any type, any RPG system out there currently in publication right now. So that should tell people something. Solo RPG gaming is cool. It's where it's at, man. All right, my friends. Hope you enjoyed it. And as always, if you liked the video, just give me a like. Or if you're new here, don't feel free to subscribe. That way, when I do upload, the notification will come through and you won't miss a video. So with that being said, this is ArtichokeDip signing off, my friends.